you so much for joining us today for this presentation on sharing difficult information with families in early intervention. Part one today is really going to just focus on discussing those practical strategies for navigating stress from ourselves and from the caregivers, and really just the need for the parent to have all the information and still maintain a healthy relationship with them. When you register today, you're automatically going to be registered for part two, which is going to feature a panel discussion from multiple perspectives, and this will include a parent, a service coordinator, an educator, a local system manager, as well as a licensed clinical social worker. So I just want to welcome Leah today for kind of bringing her expertise as a local system manager in Arlington. And also she's endorsed as an infant mental health specialist for a level 2. And she has her master's degree in marriage and family therapy from Colorado State University. So welcome. We are going to utilize the chat box a lot today. So if you guys could, go ahead, especially if you're in groups, if you could just tell us how many is in your group and what area you're from. And if you don't work in early intervention, then go ahead and share where you do work. So go ahead and type that in chat box. And the chat box is going to be under the participant box you'll see, and type in the white box and you can just hit enter. We have Corey in Waynesboro. We have Flora Mountain, Urbana, Indiana. Missy, are you in early intervention in Indiana? In North Carolina? We have a lot of people from all over. That's great. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, I am going to go ahead and pass it over to Leah. So thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Lisa. I am so happy to be here today to get to talk about this topic that, as Lisa said, I have had some experience with. I've been working in early intervention, first as a service coordinator, then as a local system manager across the past 10 years. And Lisa's right. I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. So you'd think I'd be like really good at sharing difficult information. But I had to learn it by stumbling through it, just like I think probably everybody does, because it's not really something that they teach you in a nice little package in school, even in therapy school. So that is what we're really going to be talking about today is how to manage ourselves first so that we can then be our most supportive and most compassionate self to the people we're serving. So I'm super excited to talk about that. I will say that I'm going to start with a little story because I love stories, but it'll be short, I promise. So starting with this little story, when I was preparing to get married, I walked into the office of a person who was going to provide myself and my future spouse our one required premarital counseling session. And I walked into his office and it was completely filled with papers that were all stacked on top of each other. It looked, a lot like the office that I'm sitting in right now, which is my own. But one thing that wasn't cluttered and one thing that was crystal clear, similar to this slide, was this piece of paper with these 3 things written on it. Is it kind? Is it true? Does it help? And I was like so struck by that, and I have used it in my personal life and in my professional life a lot because I think it's so important. I like for these 3 things to be in place before I tell anyone anything. Of course, that can't always be the case, but I think in early intervention, we have a lot going for us here. We're not saying things to people that are unkind in nature, and I'm pretty sure you would not be on this webinar if you were saying things in an unkind way, so we've got that one in the bag. We're telling people the truth, right? It's hard to tell people the truth sometimes. That can be a challenge when we feel stressed about it, but generally what we have to tell is true. Does it help? That's what we're going to talk about today, that third little button. Does it help? Because even when something is difficult to say, it doesn't mean that it's not helpful. And in early intervention, which it seems like from the participants here, where most of us are working in early intervention, but I would say in any field where we have to tell people things that can be hard to hear, we don't want to let our own anxiety or, frankly, the parents' reactions stop us from telling what needs to be told, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. On the next slide, it's just a quick little agenda. You can see how long this agenda is. Phew, 2 bullets, wow. Just kidding. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the how. As Lisa said when she was introducing this webinar, I really want us to get some time to think through practical strategies. Because again, these skills are not taught in school typically, and there are things that even when I, as a supervisor, when I'm hiring people, I realize that I kind of assume that people know how to do this when they start. And how would they? Unless they'd had somebody to really reflect with them and really talk through how to deliver difficult information. And we're going to get a chance to practice. Even though it's a webinar and I can't hear you or see you, I can imagine your beautiful faces, and I can see your words in the chat box. So we'll do a little bit of talking back and forth. All right, so let's start here. This is an obvious statement, don't you think? Our words don't always match our thoughts. I mean, that could not be more true. So typically, when somebody tells me something that I don't like, I don't actually say what I'm thinking, because I'm generally afraid to show vulnerability in front of somebody else, particularly when it's a professional. So when my doctor tells me something I don't like, or my child's teacher or therapist tells me something I don't like, I tend to use stock words like are written here and just kind of keep my feelings and my true thoughts inside my own brain. And as you notice here, we've got the image here is kind of about our brains, because I love to talk about the brain. There is a push in the helping field, particularly in the early childhood helping field, to marry brain science and therapy, helping people. So whereas we're kind of used to a paradigm of taking behavior at face value, so if somebody's doing something and somebody else doesn't want them to do it, our intervention used to be almost always, let's just shape that behavior in a different way so that it works better. But when we marry brain science with behavior, we can better understand how people are actually feeling and making decisions in their own mind. And so we've got 2 people here, a professional that's saying your child is delayed, and the parent saying, yeah, okay. And neither person is particularly calm because the professional's brain is like, I'm feeling anxious, I don't want to tell this bad news to this parent. And the parent's like, what? And that what might be, I had no idea, or it might be, oh no, what I feared was really true, or it might be, nuh-uh, my child is 100% not delayed. We don't know, and honestly, it doesn't matter. People can think whatever they think. Our job is to stay calm and connected in the face of adversity and in the face of having to deliver difficult news. So that uh-oh for us, that's what we have to learn to manage in this field. So this takes it even a little bit deeper. Think about the last time that you sensed that a family you were talking to was having some of these negative feelings, but saying some of these words. What I want you to type quickly in the chat is what happened inside of you. So you're sitting down, you get the sense that the parent is sad or devastated. They might be thinking things like, my baby isn't doing well, or, oh no, if I don't fix this right now, he will suffer forever, or, oh, this is my fault. That they're just kind of saying, yeah, okay, I get it, yeah. Type in the chat box one emotion or thought that comes up for you as the provider when you're in that situation. How do you feel when somebody else gets sad? So Carrie says reassurance. Maybe she's saying she wants to give reassurance. She feels the need to reassure that family. Anxious and nervous, tear up, feel like crying, want to hug them. These are awesome. Yes, that's right. Nervous, not sure what to say, also sad. Yeah, our brains can feel each other. That's a weird thing to say. I don't mean it in a gross way. Brains are gross kind of when I think about them in real life, but when I just think about the science, they're fascinating. If somebody else was in the room with me being really sad, I would feel that because I have empathy. And so those emotions that you're naming there are natural, but they're not what we need to use to make decisions on the next right step. The decisions about the next right step need to be a combination of kind of how emotions are going and also how our sort of logical thought process is going. Because we've got to remember our job is to deliver information and to help with whatever that parent wants help with. We can't skip the first part. In any part of the EI process, when we've got something to share, we have to figure out a way to share it, even in the midst of these things that can happen between people, these feelings that can sometimes get in the way. So let's do a little self-reflection. Typically, when we get stressed, people, you mean like me and you and all the other people, we will go to one extreme or the other. Some of us might lie kind of in between. But when, excuse me, when a parent is showing stress, maybe they're crying, maybe they seem to be shutting down, maybe they're getting kind of defensive, whatever they're doing that's showing stress, is your gut reaction to stop talking and kind of freeze, like the picture on the left here in the red? Like this person is kind of like, this little emoji looks to me like he or she might be saying, oh, I don't know what to say or do or think, I'm frozen. Or do you tend to go to the other extreme, which is like, I'm gonna just talk us through this. I'm gonna talk, I'm gonna fix it with my words, I'm gonna say a bunch of things, and it's all gonna be okay. Both of those things are kind of one end of the same spectrum of anxiety and nervousness. So go over and use your pointer tool. Remember, it's that tool that is on the left-hand side of the screen, but to the right of the chat box. And you're going to point to the little starburst and click it, choose an icon, and drop it down. Oh, you guys are pros. I see a lot of icons already. I'm going to drop mine down, and I'm the only one that doesn't have the gift of anonymity here. Gosh, I think I'm right in the middle. Okay, so we've got a pretty good spread. Some of us are strongly to one side. Some of us are strongly to the middle. Some of us are kind of in between somewhere. I think that the reason it's important to think about this stuff when we think about ourselves is that both of these extremes are not ideal for staying in our calmest and most compassionate self because they're decisions made out of nervousness and anxiety. So the thought process can be, uh-oh, I'm nervous that she's crying, and so I'm going to respond to my own nervousness versus, uh-oh, I'm nervous that she's crying. I'm going to calm myself down so I can stay with her. so I can stay with him. And I can give him the time he or she needs to let the cloud of this feeling pass and keep on talking, keep on being together. So we will talk today about how we do that. How do we manage our own selves in those moments? Wouldn't it be great if it was easy? This is my biggest wish, that self-management would become easy. Then I think all the world's problems would be solved. But it's not. So let's talk again. Let's go back to brain science for a second. If you were in the EI world last year in the spring, at this time of year, you might have heard a talk given by a doctor in California named Mona Delahooke, who in a couple of her works, and in particular in one of her books, she organizes brain science into 3 zones of regulation. And by regulation just means the degree to which you are calm. That's the nutshell version of that. In short, the red zone is this little cutie here who happens to be wearing pink, and this little girl who is probably giving us a message like, I am completely flooded with emotion and I cannot hear a word you're saying, and my blood pressure is high and my breathing rate is rapid, and I'm losing my mind as we speak, literally. So that's one zone, that's the red zone. The blue zone is this little guy who looks like he might be telling us, I'm unplugged. Something's going on with me where I'm a little bit frozen. I might be not feeling well, but I'm only half here, and I'm basically just kind of running on empty. And this little lady, she's representing the green zone, and she is telling us that I am curious, calm, and ready to receive and give information. So, I can't write. I have to remove that pointer. Drop your pointer down where you think you would need to be in order to stay at your calmest and most curious for a parent. Yes, 100%. That's right. Yeah, that's right. You got to be in that little girl's state of mind. You've got to be in the green zone, because if you're in the other ones, it's going to be hard for you to listen, it's going to be hard for you to talk, and it's going to be hard for you to make decisions that are reflective of the parent's true needs. So it's like really important to manage ourselves. So how can we do it? How can we get ourselves into the green zone when needed? That's a good question. Let's talk about that. So one of the things we can do, one of the most powerful things that we can do is self-talk. That is your green zone reaching into your red and your blue zone and pulling you all into your green zone. So I don't know if you have ever seen the movie Inside Out. So just type in the chat box the word yes if you've seen the movie Inside Out. It's a Disney movie. It came out like 5 years ago. Oh, look at all the yeses. So many yeses. So wow, there's like an exclamation point, and all kinds of people are influenced by this movie. So this is a great movie that describes exactly this thing that is on this slide. If you haven't seen it, the basic premise is that there's an 11-year-old girl, and the characters in the movie are her feelings. So there's anger, there's sadness, there's fear, there's disgust, all kinds of great characters, and they have to learn how to work together. So we go through a similar process all the time, every second of every day, obviously, but particularly when we're stressed, we need the calmest parts of ourselves to get us back into the center so that we can be with that family. We can bring our best self. So self-talk is a very common tool that people can use, and you're not talking out loud, even though I would love to, because I am an extrovert and I think by talking. So for you extroverts out there, you will need to not be talking out loud. For you introverts, this might come more naturally, but these are thinking these thoughts. I can handle any feeling that they display. I'm here to deliver information and help. This is not all on me, because guess what? It's never all on you. It's never all on you. All of that parent's emotions, all of that child's future, all of that child's relationship with their family, it's not all on you. Nothing is all on you when it comes to our work. So that can be calming. And you can say to yourself, if they get upset, it's not my fault. It's not because I did something wrong. It's normal for people to show emotion, particularly negative emotion, but really any emotion, when they hear that there's something might be atypical or delayed about their child's development. That is normal. So it is not because you did something wrong. These can be calming things. What else could you tell yourself? Type in the chat box. What else could you do or say to yourself or have written on a little note on your clipboard or whatever is in front of you to help calm those nerves? Somebody Caitlin writes, this is not about me. Just breathe. Fairfax writes, listen. It's not personal. What would you want to hear? I love this. I am doing the best I can. That's beautiful. These are so good. This is not going to be fun, but it will help the family in the long run. Feelings are a wave. They come and they go. It's my job to show compassion and provide information, Corey says. That's exactly right. Pause, stop, and listen. Yeah, you guys have these are wonderful. And I'm wondering, how do you trigger yourself to remember these in the moment? I'll give you a couple seconds because these are so good that I bet some of you have strategies for triggering these thoughts. Deep breaths to calm down. So you can remind yourself to take a deep breath. Pausing. Pausing is helpful because it creates space in your own mind. And if you're like me and it's hard to stop talking or it's hard to pause, things written down can be helpful. So making it yourself a little sticky that says slow down or pause or breathe. And if you're anticipating that it's going to be a really tough situation, you can write words like this. This is not about me. This is not personal. It's my job to balance, to deliver compassion and information, to keep yourself grounded. Another strategy is to literally keep yourself grounded. For some of us, thoughts really work, like these thoughts that we have written up here on the slide. For others, putting both feet on the floor just so you can feel the floor, or even just bringing awareness to your legs if you're sitting cross-legged like we so often are, looking around the room and just starting to notice things that are in the room. Instead of your mind running away with you, just taking a second and looking and going, 4 walls, not out loud again. Extroverts, we have to keep this in. 4 walls, gray couch, clipboard, just to keep ourselves grounded and in the moment, in the here and now. It's hard, and we have to sometimes do some prep. If we do no prep and we go in and we get caught off guard, it can be really hard to bring ourselves back. It's a lot of responsibility, isn't it? And sometimes what happens is that we miscalculate and we think it's our responsibility to manage the parent's emotions, but it is 100% not our job to manage their emotions. It is our job to manage our emotions and be a witness to their emotions. That's all. Emotions from parents don't need to stop the process unless they want them to. So let's go to the next slide. So let's jump to then what does come out of our mouth. This, for me, I spend a lot of time thinking about this, although if my staff is listening, they're probably like, well, you still need work on this, because I'm definitely oftentimes like a big blabbermouth, big talker, love to speak. And so when I am tasked with delivering a soft delivery, I know, first of all, that I'm going to do the best job at that if I am calm. So it takes for me those calming mechanisms. It takes those self-talk thoughts to get me into a place where I can say things in a nice voice, in a calm voice, like this on the slide. I know this is so hard to hear. It is okay to be upset. You can also say it is common, normal, very, very much expected for you to be upset. Would you like to take a break? And then I recently read a beautiful article about school counselors. It was geared towards school counselors, so not early intervention, but school counselors delivering difficult news to parents. And there was a strong recommendation in there to go slowly and pause often and ask questions like, did that part make sense, or was that last part clear? There was even a recommendation to sometimes say, I want to make sure that I am speaking as clearly as possible. Would you mind telling me what your understanding of what you heard is? That's not always going to work for everybody, but if it's comfortable enough, that's a really good way to see if you're on the same page. But these are all soft deliveries, because we will get to sort of soft and harsh in a little bit, but softening the delivery is extremely important. It does not mean that we don't tell the truth, but it does mean that we are going to tell it in a way that is easier to hear. Let's take a look at this picture for a minute. I love this picture because I really feel like I've been in that house. I haven't. I don't know those people. This is a random picture. But let's take a second and look at these three people. We have what I believe to be a father, a mother, and an interventionist. And that interventionist is telling something, is saying something, or the subject they're talking about is not easy for that family to hear. So go ahead and take a look at these folks and type in the chat box, what are some thoughts or feelings that you think any of these three people are having, the father, the mother, or the interventionist, when you look at this picture? Dad is somewhere else. Someone is worried. Dad wants to be somewhere else. Yep. Mom is doing the listening. Dad might not be happy. The dad might be sad. He's not sure he wants to hear this. Mom might be trying to be strong. Dad is feeling the weight. There might be some dismay. The worker is trying to be calm. There might be some denial. There's processing happening. Their knees are together for connection. That's so true. I didn't even notice that. But yeah, that's right. The worker is trying to show caring. Mom might be more open. So all of these things are things that came up for me too, and things that I find myself often thinking when I'm sitting in front of people talking about their child to them or with them. And the truth is we don't really know. We can read people's body language and cues, but we don't really know. both of them are looking toward the worker, but only mom is looking directly at the worker. But we do know that in the early childhood field, moms tend to bear more of the weight of managing the kids. So it could be that we're also naturally looking more at mom, and it's just kind of defaulting into that same old pattern where the dad is kind of there, but we're really more talking to the mom. Who knows? But if our assumptions are true, what are some things that worker can do? That social worker or that service coordinator or that therapist, she can stay the way she to me looks very calm, so she can keep her calm pose, but she can also do exactly what Cecilia is saying, that she can state that it's okay to be sad. I think we get afraid to name emotions sometimes because we're afraid to be wrong. We're afraid someone might say, well, I'm not sad. Why do you think I'm sad? You think it's sad when kids have delays? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, should I be sad? I think that thought process can sometimes go through our minds. At least it can go through my mind. I might be the only one. I fully own that. So it doesn't, I think if parents correct you, you can just go with it. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread you. Tell me how you are feeling. Or instead of naming it, you can say, how is everybody feeling, like somebody suggested in the chat box. And if this is a decision point, which almost always, when we're in the early intervention field, when we're sharing difficult information, there's usually a decision after it, because the parent then gets to decide, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to talk to somebody about it? Are they going to let it ride? Are they going to go to a doctor? Are they going to want IFSP services or not? There's always something. And I think we're always safe to say, I want you to know that I will be here to support you 100%, no matter what you choose to do with this information. Because what that does is cuts the string that she will only help me if I agree. And that is not true, right? We are a voluntary program, and we are equal partners with parents. Going back to how this lovely worker can be a support, let's talk about this awesome concept that comes up a lot in the organizational psychology field. So if you've ever been through a class at your place of work that was just about working well together, you may have heard this construct or concept, impact versus intent. So when we accidentally end up with a family who feels isolated and alone or worried and uncertain, it is almost never our intention, and I'm going to venture to say it is never our intention to make them feel that way. We are in the business of helping where there's help to be given. We are not in the business of pushing people down. But sometimes the way that we say things can actually have this unfortunate effect of either feeling worried and uncertain or isolated and alone. And I think this has to do a lot with that spectrum we talked about before, the spectrum of nervousness, where you either are going to like clam up and have trouble saying what you really mean, or you might just be too blunt and say it too directly and maybe not put it in the context of that child's wonder. And when I say wonder, here's what I'm talking about. Every single human child is a wonder. It's a miracle that they're here. All that had to go into making them and them showing up and them being here with us is amazing. And then they have this whole wonderful life that they are living with their parents. Wonderful doesn't mean stress-free, but in every child's life, they do things that amaze other people. They do things that light up the eyes of the adults in their life. And when we take that out and just deliver negative information, we can have a harmful effect on that parent's sense of optimism. Because no matter what we say, you can't say anything in early intervention that should destroy optimism. Optimism is a hugely important part of parenting, and every child deserves a parent who is optimistic about their development. Again, that doesn't mean the parent is blissfully thinks everything is fine all the time, because we don't need that for any of our kids, typically or atypically developing. But the sense that I'm excited about who she's going to become, every parent is owed that, and every child is owed that. So I wanted to put that in context when I say that when we deliver information without that wonder, without the fact that the child is an amazing thing all in and of her or himself, we can really create this sense of isolation, because if we just say, well, Johnny is X, or he has X, and we haven't recognized Johnny's context, it can be very isolating. Because a parent might think, wow, they're out here, they came all the way out here just to tell me that he's delayed. That's isolating. I wonder how many other parents have been through this. If on the other end of the spectrum, we're like, oh, I'm not sure how to say this, and we're making, I wish you could see me because I'm making that face we probably all felt, the worried face with the furrowed brow and the smile that's not really a smile, and it's like, I think he's on the spectrum, but I'm not going to say that because I don't know them well enough yet, so I'm just going to evade that whole thing. Again, not intentional. Your intentions are good. Your intent is to not hurt them. Where the misalignment happens is that it's not our job to protect parents from information. It's our job to be with them and support them while they learn information. So if we're evasive like that, it can actually leave a parent very worried and uncertain, because we're going to send them the message that something's wrong, but we're not telling them what it is. No one likes to feel like that. And so those are the situations where we all part ways, and we are feeling like we've got a knot in our stomach, we didn't say everything we needed to, and the parent is feeling like, I don't know what that was, but I feel weird. And now I'm worried, and now I'm going to get on the internet and Google everything. We don't want that. That's not what we want to create. So I am going to read some of the go-to statements that I see. So I see somebody that says, I typically say that this is your baby first. So good. And that it is your job to love them, and in the meantime, we're going to help you along the way. That's beautiful. Your baby is your baby no matter what we say, no matter what we are here to do. Provide the family with hope by sharing testimonials of others with similar stories. I think that's a great idea. I think you got to be careful with testimonials, because you don't want to be, obviously you got a privacy concern, you don't want to be saying names, but you also, the great thing about testimonials is that they can provide hope, and they're not a guarantee. So we'll talk a little bit about the whole crystal ball guarantee thing in a few minutes. And I'm going to go quickly through these other slides because I do want to make sure that we get a chance to practice and talk. All feelings are welcome. All I'm going to say about this is that the parent has a right to his or her feelings all the time, every day, and we are paid not to create a feeling for them. We are paid to witness and help in the midst of whatever feelings are going on. So staying connected in the midst of difficult feelings. This is what we just talked about. We want to stay away from blurting things out too quickly, and we want to stay away from clamming up and being evasive. We got to stick somewhere in the middle, and that's where our self-talk and our calming statements and our curious questions become really important. So we are going to have thoughts sometimes that if we let them drive our behavior, they will serve to create, that behavior can serve to create a distance between the parents and us. So these are all totally normal. I've had all of these thoughts multiple times in my life working in early intervention. They come from our own feelings. I don't think he's understanding this. Maybe I'm not saying it right. Or no, it's on him. He's in denial. Those are the thoughts that can sometimes lead to denial. He's not as upset as he should be. He's in denial. Denial is fine. It's totally normal. And it is only a problem because we get anxious when we feel like we haven't done the job of delivering the information. But what we can know is as long as we have delivered it and we're pretty sure that they understand the content, how they feel about the information, whether they disagree or agree, is not relevant. So instead of from he's in denial, we'd want to make a decision of, and that's okay, I'm going to just make sure that I clearly stated things, and I'm just going to stay here, and we're going to keep working through this, and it's fine. Instead of, he's in denial, so I'm going to kind of give up on sharing any more information because he's not going to get it anyway. That we don't want. We don't want to give up because we get anxious. Kylie says, give the family time to process, then offer services and supports when they're ready. Don't rush them. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to be here to support you 100% no matter what you decide to do with this information. Sometimes the right next step is to stop for them, take a break, give them some time like days, weeks to process. Okay, so we're going to move quickly through the tools, the behaviors that we want to show, which are empathy and collaboration. I'm going to work through empathy and collaboration in about 3 minutes because I want to leave the last 15 minutes for us to go through scenarios. So this man is holding a hot potato. I once had a supervisor that told me that anytime you feel uncomfortable with an interaction or something the family told you or something that happened when you were working directly with a family, it's like a hot potato. You should not hold it alone. So if you get handed a hot potato when you're with a family, oh, I let my child swim by himself for 30 minutes, he's 2, in a really deep pool and I was inside taking a nap. That's a hot potato because that's a huge safety concern and a reason to probably call CPS, right? So what you don't want to do is just hold it and juggle it for 5 days just by yourself. You might want to share it with the family, coach them through it. You must have a supervisor who can help you hold that hot potato. And so empathy and collaboration is a way of sharing that difficult information with your clients and not putting it, like I said before, all on you. Empathy, as a reminder, is feeling with someone. This little girl and this little boy, she's close. She's really looking at what happened to him. He's trying to show her and tell her, and she's getting it. They're having a moment where she has joined him in his feelings. She's not judging him. We have to do this for our families. We have to show empathy by saying things like, oh, I know this hurts to hear this. No one likes to hear these things. It's okay to be sad. I know it's frustrating that our process takes so long sometimes and you just really want to get in there and make a difference. Feeling with, as opposed to, oh, I'm so sorry this is happening. Anyway, let's just move on and sign this paperwork. That is sympathy. That's not so helpful in our job. Empathy is feeling with, naming emotions, making it okay for people to have emotions, imagining what it must be like. Why? Because when people are not alone in their difficult feelings, the world feels safer and less lonely. And back to brain science, a lot of our zones of regulation, that green, red, and blue, are dependent on our sense of safety and security. Empathy increases, in general, our sense of safety and security. This person gets it. She does care about me. She's wants to help. She gets where I'm coming from. I've been heard. Once we're there, then we can move to collaboration. And we who are in early intervention are so lucky because we have like one of the world's best collaborative tools around, and that is coaching. In Virginia, we have adopted the coaching methods that are delivered by Dathan Rush and Melissa Shelton. And there are 5 components of coaching. It is all about building the parent's capacity and helping them analyze, and us using our expertise to help build their capacity to meet their child's needs. It's extremely collaborative. Empathy first, then collaboration. The thing to remember about empathy and collaboration and delivering news in the softest and clearest way is that you're not delivering news to an underling, and you're not delivering news to a king. You are delivering news to somebody that is equal to you, because that parent is the hands down forever expert on their child and their life. You will never be that expert. You are currently the expert on overall birth to 3 development and the specifics of your discipline. They may or may not be an expert in those things, but those 2 sets of expertise are equally valuable. That is the unique thing about early intervention is that they are actually valued equally. Because let me tell you, when I show up at my pediatrician's office, my expertise on my kid's life is valued not at all. And that's fine, because it's a doctor's office and I'm going to be there for 7 minutes. They're not coming to my house and going to help me work through day-to-day routines-based issues. That is our job. So we have to know, we have to learn and absorb information and accept influence from our partners who are the caregivers. Difficult information delivered through a partnership is easier to take. One thing we can remember before we get into scenarios is that we need to kind of stay in the scope of what we know. And I don't mean discipline specific for Virginia EI people. I'm not talking about practice here. I'm really talking about when we're delivering difficult information, we don't know what their life is going to look like at 10, 17, and 35. So those worries that we sometimes have about, oh, he's never going to walk, and oh, this parent has no idea how delayed he is, and oh my gosh, when they're an adult, we don't know. We're worried because we have a lot of experience working with families, but that worry should never be the basis for the things we say, because it is just a worry. It's not founded in anything that's relevant right now. We can remember that our ability to predict a child's functioning later in life between birth and 3 is very low. So we may think we know, but there's not really the data to support that we do. So we can let that go and stay in the here and the now. We know today, we know child development today, we know some about this child's development right now. Do we know the parent's preferred learning style? It'd be great if we did. We don't always, particularly when we're in the beginning, but we can ask. Do we know the next steps for the child's development? Yeah, probably we do. We can share that information. But we don't need to get into the crystal ball discussion. We don't need to feel compelled to answer, is he ever going to walk? Because we don't know. We really don't. Okay, so let's get into some scenarios. We've got 10 minutes. It's a miracle that I haven't talked us all the way through this hour. Because again, I love to talk. So let's start with little Assad. I'm going to tell the story, and I'm going to give sort of one option for how to respond to the family's reaction, and I want you to pick it apart, okay? Really, really pick it all apart. Like, really don't worry about my feelings, because I want you to criticize. So get ready. So Assad is a 20-month-old little boy who began to lose his words. He had about 5 or 6 words between 12 and 15 months. And he began to lose them when he turned 18 months. At the intake, when we were there, we did an MChat, and he scored high elevation for possible autism. We talked a lot about some repetitive behaviors that he really enjoys engaging in, like running in circles and having his parents name the same object over and over again. He has some difficulty sleeping. he smiles easily. He's a lovely little fun guy that loves to move around, and his parents adore him. One of the complicating factors, because today we're at the ASP, so today we have done our assessment, we're ready to share our narrative, we're ready to work through the decision tree with the family, and we're ready to share our thoughts and hear their thoughts. The family has told us at the intake that they have an older child with autism. So their older son is 5, and he's got a diagnosis of autism. He is pretty highly affected by autism. So he's got a lot of symptoms. He has a lot of trouble communicating, and his autism diagnosis was clear and not a big surprise to them. Assad, they have said, does not have autism. The parents have said this to us because he is functioning at a much more interactive level than his brother did when his brother was 20 months. So they are very clear in their thinking that Assad does not have autism. So I'm at this point where I'm like, okay, I'm at the ASP. There's an elephant in the room. We've shared everything. We've talked. I feel like I want to say, you know, I see things a little bit differently regarding the relationship to autism that his brother has and that Assad might have. So I decide to say something. Here's what you're going to pick apart. This is my response. So I say, I need to share some information with you. Is that okay with you? Are you ready to hear a little more about my thoughts? And the family says, sure. And I say, I heard you say, and I really hear your story, that Assad is a lot different than his brother was at his age. And that you are thinking that Assad probably doesn't have autism or isn't affected by the autism spectrum disorder. Did I hear that right? Yeah, we absolutely think he's fine. We think he needs a little bit of speech therapy, but we don't think he has autism. Okay, so I see it a little differently, and I'd like to tell you about that. Is this an okay time for me to do that? Okay, sure. Okay. So when I saw Assad the first time and he scored on the modified checklist for autism in toddlers, remember we talked about he scored in the elevated range, I began to think of some of his behaviors, like the fact that he lost words and that he has some repetitive things he's doing, like spinning in circles and wanting you to name pictures over and over again. Those are things that sometimes our kids with the autism spectrum disorder do. And so I'm wondering if he might actually be also experiencing some autism. And I wanted to know what you thought about that. And the dad says, well, so you think he has autism? Well, I'm not sure, but I'm having these thoughts that he's reminding me, some of these behaviors are reminding me of some of the symptoms that we see in kids that do have autism, even though he is very different than his brother. All right, so I'm going to stop there. Pick it apart, people. I'll give you 45 seconds. So somebody said they heard me ask permission. Yep. I think you did fine, but I would add that ASD is wide and can look different in each one. Yes, totally agree. Maybe I could have said something like that, huh? Kylie thinks it was fine. I could have asked, what is your understanding of autism? That's so true. I really didn't ask them anything about their understanding. I just kind of repeated what they had said. I've been in that situation, and the family made the excuse that their younger child is picking up on the older child's behaviors, which, that's possible. This was painful to listen to. You were not sure of what you were sharing, and what you were sharing was potentially hurtful to the family. Yeah, so true. So, Lisa, what could I have done differently? be nice to see the nonverbal cues from the family, right? Because that might have informed how I said things. I think it's good to bring up red flags in the beginning, says Kylie. You can always monitor the concerns and see if the progress is made. Yep. You have to weigh the pros and cons, I think, of bringing it up, but it's always good to sort of bring it up and see if the family agrees. Lisa says, just as the two children are different, autism can look different in each child. Yeah. I liked your permission and asking to share your thoughts. Yep. And I could have expressed that I can't diagnose autism, but that my, based on the results of the screening, that I have some concerns. So what I trip over when I talk about these things, and I would expect that other people trip over it also, is the fact that we are not ever in the position of telling families exactly what it is. We don't diagnose an early intervention, so we have to, as gently and clearly as we can, express our concerns and our opinions and what those opinions are based on. So Lisa says, go through the planning and then mention the high autism possibility results and bring a referral to a developmental clinic for an autism screening. Yeah, and that depends on whether they want to do that, because the other thing I didn't say is, I just wanted to share this with you, but I am 100% comfortable with whatever your decision is. And if you would like to talk through options, I'm always here. I didn't say that last part, but I think I probably could have. So let's move to the next one. This is Skylar. Skylar is a beautiful little baby girl. She's 24 months. You've been seeing Skylar for about 6 months. And you have noticed that Skylar is showing some signs, some like very significant low muscle tone that's beyond the scope of the typical kind of low muscle tone that sometimes can happen that causes gross motor delay. She seems to have a ton of trouble working against gravity. She is not sitting up independently yet. And remember, she's 24 months. And she's got some atypical movements in her legs and in her arms. And you have often, or let me say I've often brought this up to Mom. Her name is Elsie. I've often brought this up to Elsie about the atypical movements. I've said things like, what do you think about that? But then I've been too scared when she says, oh, I think it's fine, to say what I really think, which is I don't think it's fine. And I'm actually kind of worried that there might be an underlying cause. So I've been kind of sitting on that information because I don't want to hurt their feelings. So I show up one day and the mom is like, Elsie's like, we have an appointment with a geneticist because the doctor said that she thinks that there might be a genetic cause to why why Skylar's delayed. And I realize I have 2 minutes, so I'll go through this quickly. And I think my response has to be, I've been wondering the same thing, but I haven't told you because I haven't been sure, so I'm so glad that you are going to be going to see a geneticist. How can I be helpful in prepping for that visit? Is there any way I can be helpful? Is there anything I could provide? Which, depending on your relationship, would you like to go together? But I also think it's really important to say, I regret not bringing this to you before because I think we could have talked about it, but I realized that I didn't have permission from you yet to bring up difficult subjects like that. So let me ask you now, when I have thoughts like that, is it okay for me to bring them up? And how do you best like to hear them? Right here in the session, over email? Because sometimes I think that we don't realize that people often have a way that they want to hear things, and that if we just ask, they will totally tell us. So in our last 1 minute, let me offer you a chance to ask any questions, if you have any.
And Leah, I'm just going to jump in really quick. As they are typing in any questions, you did a great job, and what a great topic, too. on sharing information. I think we don't ever really talk about that much in early intervention, just how to share that kind of information with families. So thank you for doing this. As you guys are typing in any questions, just to let you know, for the May Talks on Tuesday, again, you are already registered if you registered today, and we are going to have a panel discussion, and it's going to feature a parent, a service coordinator, a developmental service provider and service coordinator, a licensed clinical social worker who also works in an autism clinic as a team facilitator, and then Leah will come back again as a local system manager. And they're really going to all offer their different perspectives. So thank you again for joining us. If you have to go, we're going to honor your time. So thank you. And then Leah, if any questions pop up, you can feel free to answer that.
Okay, great.
I can answer this one. So how do you register? So actually, you do not have to register for it. If you registered for the April Talks on Tuesday today, you are automatically registered.
Lisa, you also, this is Corey, you also have some people asking about certificates, so you might want to just pop in case people are still on how they're going to get their certificate.
Okay, so for the certificate, there will be a link to a survey, correct, Corey?
That's correct. You will get, as soon as the session is over, if you were registered today, you will get a certificate, you will get an email, complete the survey, and your certificate will be attached.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, and then someone's asking what's the May date?
The May date. Hang on. I'm looking for the May date. I think it's May 6th.
I believe it's May 7th.
May 7th.
12 to 1 p.m.
12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Joe Sherlon, I see your question. What if we watched as a group? When you get, whoever gets the email, send it on to your colleagues and they can get certificates as well. Michelle Van Horn, yes, the first Tuesday of each month from 12 to 1 Eastern Time, except for January because we always hit the New Year's holiday, and then we take a summer break July and August. So all 9 months of the year we do that. We hope you'll join us again.
And the May date again is May 7th from 12 to 1 p.m. So that's Tuesday, May 7th from 12 to 1 p.m. And Jeannie will send a link out for the survey soon. So thank you guys all so much for joining us. Leah, thank you so much again just for bringing your expertise to us and sharing all that information.
No problem. I loved it.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.